Hello and welcome to another insightful and informative episode of AAU Talks on AAU TV. My name is Ajiman Ochudapo, and you're watching the very unique series coming from the University of Environment and Sustainable Development in Somania, and we're bringing you great topics, topical matters which are very critical to higher education in Africa. And today's episode is no different as I sit here with Dr. Peter Asare-Nuamah, who is a lecturer in climate change, public policy, and also innovation. And we're looking at technological innovation and sustainable development. You'll bear with me that the recent invasion of disruptive technology like cloud computing, artificial intelligence, robotics, and the many others, and how they can contribute to the growth of our economy is very, very imperative. But there's another issue about sustainable development, which is also inevitable. So how then do we balance these two very, very amazing variables? But today we'll have him with us to help us understand the inception of these two and how they can coexist to bring us the benefit that we derive. So don't go anywhere. Stay with me for this short break. We'll be right back and let you know who he is. And as usual, zoom right to discussion. Stay with us. Welcome back to AAU Talks on AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa, and as we stay poised to bring you content that inform to transform. And I have right here Dr. Peter Asare-Nuamah, is a lecturer in public policy, climate change, and innovation. Doctor, welcome to AAU Talks.
Thank you so much.
We're glad to have you here, and we're discussing technological innovations and sustainable development.
Okay.
Someone will say these are two different things. Sustainable development is about we ensuring that we we ensure that we have a better environment, well sustained for posterity. And technology also, it is we trying to make things quite easier and better, regardless, whatever we have to do, what it takes to make sure things get better. What's the relationship here in these two in the first place?
Okay, thank you very much. There is a strong relationship between these two. So I was saying that for economy to develop, technology plays a key role in our health sector, in our agriculture sector, in education sector, in every sector that we have. Those are the sectors that support our development. And technology is what? A tool for development. Yeah. And therefore, there is a strong relationship between technology and sustainable development. Why? Previously, our development patterns have shown that we are causing a lot of degradation to the environment, destroying the environment. Yeah. So technology offers us alternatives as to how to go about production in a way that is sustainable, that minimizes negative effects, that gives us the opportunity to maximize production, which means once we are maximizing production, we are increasing efficiency. Yeah. And that is what every country wants to see, that there is efficiency in every aspect, human, technological, industry. Once that is done, then there is a likelihood for the country to develop. But in attempt to develop, we should look at how would that development not affect the environment. And that is where technology gives us that leverage, that in anything we do, we have to make sure we apply technology to ensure that the outcome will have minimal impact on the environment, maximize impact on humanity and the environment itself, so that future generations can benefit now or even better than we are enjoying. So that's where the relationship between technology and the sustainability falls.
So Doc, on that premise, then I'm eager to ask, then which kinds of technological innovations appreciate sustainable development or sustainability in the first place?
Okay, there are a lot of them. You have to look at it sector by sector. And currently in the industry sector, most technologies are aiming at efficient use of water resources, minimizing waste, recycling. All these are technologies that are being used in the production sector. When you come to agriculture sector, there are a lot of innovations that are sustainable in themselves, that they minimize the use of power. They also minimize the outcome from the negative aspect of irrigation, because irrigation has a negative impact. Oh yeah, irrigation has some negative impact. When you go to the grassroots, they'll tell you what the impact are.
It's interesting to know about that one. You have to know about that one.
Later, right? Sure. Yeah, so when you go to the agriculture sector, in Ghana, the CSIR is doing a lot with technological innovation when it comes to planting for food and job. What kinds of innovative seeds, what kinds of resistant seed, what kinds of improved seeds are we looking at? When you come to education, pandemic has told us what to do Now there are a lot of virtual and online platforms for education. Almost across the country, every institution is going online. That is the shift that the pandemic has brought. And that is one kind of innovation that we are experiencing now. Another aspect is virtual reality, where you can look at something in an abstract way, but you can view it through a small device. We have machine learning, artificial intelligence, robotics. That is something that is coming up, and all these are innovations that will help us achieve sustainable development.
Then let's look at how technological innovation helps sustainability. Because we believe we have some disruptive technology.
Okay.
We also have got some destructive ones.
Okay.
Would you want to stand by that? Some technologies are destructive and some disruptive?
Oh yeah, some technologies are destructive and disruptive. Those disruptive, according to Champitera, he says they are those innovations that comes with new ideas, challenging the existing ones. China is a great example of disruptive country. Whenever even there is an original, they'll find a way to produce a seemingly equal one. That is disrupting the market. And we have some technologies that are also destructive. Destructive in the sense that they may not be destroying the environment, but they may change social and cultural relations. I went to Kenya and we were having a discussion on innovation. And this issue came up of solar panels. And I think Kenya has one of the largest solar panel installation farms in Africa.
Great.
Yeah, Kenya and Ethiopia. And these are innovations that are actually changing the scope of how we get power so that we can minimize our reliance on fossil fuel, which is very good. But one thing is that in as much as such a large scale is done, it's going to be destructive to those who are living on the environment for their livelihoods. So I threw a question to a professor from Netherlands that you want us to go into this. It's very good. But have you thought of the destruction this technology is going to have on peasant farmers in Kenya? Because these technologies are installed on farms or on large tracts of land. And in Africa, most of these lands are what farming lands.
Yeah.
So when you install this, what are the implications? What remedies or what alternatives do you offer those who are giving these technologies? So technology could have positive impact. It could have some destructive ones that it calls for critical thinking. That if we are going to do this, then what alternative means can we use to minimize the negative impact? So that is it.
You know, some scholars say that it is very imperative that we always find new ways of doing things.
Yeah.
But how can you sustain technological innovations in our part of the world?
We can sustain it. It doesn't necessarily have to depend on your part of the world. It is about the idea behind it, the newness of it, the genuineness of it, and how it is going to influence lives and economies. There is no technology that comes today and die off. Unless, of course, they are not day in, day out in the IT sense updating themselves. Because there could be a technology for today, tomorrow that same technology may change slightly because of an update and the current conditions in the country. So technologies may come today, but they always have to be updated to look at the conditions of the country at a particular point in time. We are seeing mobile phones. When I was in the SS, we were using these small phones, Nokia. Those were the technologies that were pushing the world.
Yeah.
But now we have Android that those small phones are now becoming somehow archaic for people to use.
Yeah.
So now those are technologies that are pushing the frontiers of today. And the time will come, probably in the next 10 years, the next 50 years, the phones we will have will be completely different from what we are having today. So day in, day out, once technologies are coming out, they don't come and stay forever. They come and ensure that based on the prevailing conditions of the economy or the context of a particular area, they adapt to, so that it serves a purpose that is both beneficial to them and to the producers of that technology.
We'll be talking more about technological innovation and sustainable development right after this short break, looking into some of the distractiveness that we are seeing and how well we sustain them with Dr. Peter Asare-Nuamah. Stay with us, we'll be right back. You're welcome back to AAU Talks, and I'm right here with Dr. Peter Asare-Nuamah. He's a lecturer in public policy, climate change, innovation as well. And we're looking at technological innovation and sustainable development. And now, before we went on a break, we're looking at technology and its destructiveness. But now let's look at technology and its contribution to innovation. How well have we been able to balance our technology in Africa and our constant introduction to innovativeness in our part of the world?
Okay, thank you so much. In the developed world, technologies are driving innovations, and innovations are also driving technology. It's a two-way.
Okay.
If I have a new idea I want to implement, I may have to employ technology. That's hardware, software, internet, and then see how I can bring that idea into fruition. That is what innovation is. The practical implementation of an idea that will lead to the production of new products and services or improving existing ones.
Yeah.
So technology and innovation go hand in hand. In the developed world, they are always looking at the two sides. How do we ensure that innovation will push technology, technology will push innovation? In Africa, people are talking about let's catch up. That catching up is a case that I have a little bit
I think
reservation when it comes to that.
We can debate it to that. No, the world thinks that, or we believe that we're far behind in terms of what we will be able to do. And you know, we are always amazed by what we see, right? We are lagging behind in terms of reaching in as first movers, second movers, but rather we want to wait to see how it spans over time. Then we catch in. I think it's worth catching up the quarter. Africa, catch up.
We shouldn't have to catch up. We have to look at what we are doing and better it.
Okay.
Because in every technology that comes out or innovation, they look at the prevailing conditions. What is it going to address? We found out that there are so many instances where Africa will adopt some technology, and the impact we are getting is far less than the users of that same technology in certain other parts of the world.
Okay.
It is because it does not fit our context. We have to look at our problems, find solution to them. We cannot catch up looking at what America is doing. We catch up looking at what we are doing, what we want. So if we say catch up, you are always looking at somebody without looking at your immediate environment. What can you do to better your condition? Because in America, every innovation that comes is aimed at giving a better life to the Americans and then how they can scale it up to other places.
Yeah.
So we don't have to necessarily catch up. We have to look at doing new things in a new way, solving the African problem, and we will certainly get there. Once we are able to address our problems, China have done it. They don't have to catch up with America. They do not say we have to catch up with America. They look at their problems that, okay, the next 50 years, this is where we want to be. So they don't have to rush. It is only when we are always rushing, America is not going out with this, we have to go there. You see, in the global world, it's a competition. Russia, America, China, Germany, France, it's because they are similarly on the same scale. We are not at the same scale, so we cannot always be thinking of catching up. We have to catch up within our environment. How do we ensure that all our issues are solved? By innovation, by new ways of doing things, by technology. And by that, for all you know, by the time we realize we are doing just like we are doing.
Let's cascade down into the contribution of higher education in creating that technological aura to boost innovation. How well are we trying to make that happen in there?
Oh, okay, thank you very much. I'm part of the Ghana Science STEM network.
Great.
And over there is vibrant youth who are either bringing up new innovations or creating advocacy for STEM education in Ghana. And I'll use two examples. There is this innovation called GreenMate. It started as a research from a student at Tech, engineering student. He was looking at, okay, after farmers have dried their product, they have to reach a certain global standard. How do they make sure they are able to determine the moisture content in this product, either being cocoa, rice, so that they can sell?
Yeah.
Because in Africa, we are always producers, raw materials.
Sure.
So we have to make sure even those raw materials, we catch up or we meet the requirement on the global market. So he thought of it, how do our farmers determine that, okay, this cocoa is dried enough to meet the global market?
Great.
How is rice determined? How is rice dried enough to meet the global market? So through education, that is where education plays a key role. It is through the knowledge he got from the classroom and then the practical field experiences he got. He came up with these two, blended them, came up with a new innovation, a small stick, a stick of about 2 or 3 centimeters. You dip it into your dried maize, it will tell you how dried it is to meet a global standard.
Interesting.
Yeah, so education is very important in bringing innovation. That is where it is the center of innovation. That is where all the new ideas should come from. in the global world, education, and then the industry. But one thing we forget is that even if the industry has a new idea, they found how can academia to this, come up with the relevant information or data, so that we can test to see whether it's going to work. A critical example is now we are all using what do you call mobile money.
Yeah, Momo.
When you read the history behind Momo, funded by the UK government through some collaborative research in Kenya, the idea was that okay, they were looking at how do we ensure that they can increase their efficiency.
Okay.
But after having done all their data collection, implemented the software, they found out that no, the object that we are looking for is not, it shouldn't be microfinance. We can scale it up to everybody.
Okay.
So that is where innovations come from. Where education offers you the skills, the idea you need. And there you can be thinking of how best you can come up with new ideas, combining technology, combining existing production lines or existing ways of doing things, and how can you improve on that? Education is key for innovation, because that is where the center of knowledge, and knowledge is central to innovation, because innovation is what? An idea that is implemented, a new idea. So education is key. Any country that does not value its education will not be able to drive innovation, because that is where all the ideas must come from. Now the president, when you go around, the president, the vice president, they are all talking about what? Youth innovation, entrepreneurship. The idea is that we have to let people know that you are not going to school to come for government jobs. You are going to school to get the idea, to get the knowledge. When you come back, you implement them in a way that will address a problem. And that is where innovation comes in. That person is going to do it through what? Education. There are other people who may not have gone through formal education, but they also have an idea. Even within that group of people, they go back to a classroom to get an idea in how to better what they want to do. So education is very, very, very important. I will emphasize, education is very, very, very important in innovation and technology.
You are a strong advocate of Africans tailoring their own technology to their own environment and having homegrown solutions. But how about the other way around in terms of picking inspirations internationally and having been inspired by them, we forget our own issues? What are some of the practical moves that we can practically think of our problems, find solutions? Give us a procedure how we can get that done with higher education industry collegiality.
So there is no one best way, and every government will have its own means of implementing that. But at the end of the day, there should be a consensus between our current industries, what they want, our current human capacity, how do we improve it, our educational systems, how do we bring these three components together to come up with an idea? Okay, now we want to look at a better ways of even improving our education. Now there is this Zoom. We can also think of an African way, an African platform. I did not know until last week that there is IBIP also. I forgot the real name. It's a platform for collaborative research for Africans. And it emerged in the US. But all those over there are blacks for Africans. They're looking at how do we holistically look at the African problem and address it. The issue is that you can draw inspirations from Western world based on what they are doing, but their context is different from ours. Now they are not fighting of poverty. They are not fighting of what to eat. They are now looking at how to go to space. Should we also tend to want to go to space? No.
That is quite unattainable for now.
So we have to look at what are the prevailing conditions, how do we address them? Because if you have a problem, three problems, once you address one, it gives you the leverage on the other one. So it's a gradual process and a systematic process. If we want to catch up, or if we want to draw quick inspiration that they are here, so we have to be with them. We may forget the prevailing conditions in our environment. And that is what happens most of the time. People see what is happening in Western world, and then they quickly bring it to Africa. Let me take the case of maintenance, infrastructure maintenance in Africa or in Ghana. I went to a country where they have a very nice fountain. But I think after the building, for roughly the first 6 months that the fountain was flowing with water. For the past 10 years, the fountain is there, but there's no water. What was the essence of bringing it? You knew that in your country you have a shortage of water problem. So you should have found another means of building that fountain that will suit your needs. It's not just copy and paste. If we always copy and paste, we will get it wrong.
Oh, okay.
We can copy, but when you copy, that's why we call adapt and adopt. By adopting, you are taking it as it is without changing. But adapting, you take it, bring it in your context, modify it to suit what you want. So adaptation is very key in all these aspects. If we are not adapting but adopting, there is high probability that we may not be attaining the development we want. And one thing is clear, all innovations are coming for what? Profit making.
Yeah.
So if we are always adapting without looking at our prevailing conditions, we'll be making money for a certain group of people who are outsiders. Outside in the sense that they are not Africans who are driving the African solution to the African problem. They are group of people, first class world or developed world, that wants to maximize on every effort in every country, in every aspect of our life. So we have to just look at how can we adapt to our situation, because be frank with me, if you are able to adapt, you maximize the outcome.
Great.
And we minimize the impact on our environment.
Great. It's been a great time with Dr. Peter Asare-Nuamah on technological innovations and sustainable development. You know, interestingly, we look forward to have a good wrap up on this one. And it's a very, very, very controversial matter. You know, when it comes to tailoring technology in the African context, you say the African people are so quite resistant. We resist technology, we resist innovation. We want to go by the old means. COVID-19, technological innovations, and sustainable development. How has it been so far trying to stand shoulder to shoulder with the international scene on COVID-19 and technological innovations in Africa?
Oh, okay. Let me point to you that being resistant to change is not an African thing. It happens everywhere. It happens when you go to US, you find out when technologies or computers were first introduced, there will be some resistance because people think, okay, it's going to take our work. In India, my professor was like, when they introduced first computer in their university, there was serious protest demonstrations among the workers because they thought computer is going to take off their means of livelihood. So resistance is key. And anybody who wants to make a change in the society and you don't see resistance, it means that change is not something that can be sustained.
Great.
People must resist to it, and it's through education, compromise, education, that they come to understand that this thing is not actually intended to harm us, but to make us better. So there will always be that resistance to change. In the issue of COVID-19, it is an eye-opener for Africa. How do we ensure that we don't go back to the old ways of doing things in our health sector, in our education? Currently, most universities in Ghana are running online courses, which was not so. Which was not so previously. It is because now COVID-19 is giving us that leverage that you can do it. At first, we had to depend on what is happening outside before we would think, or can we bring it to our context? But COVID-19 has made it possible, or for us to know, that we can have an African solution for African problems. While the whole world is suffering, you can't rely on the US. You can't rely on Germany. You should rely on your own self for your survival. In disaster theories, we have what we call you are responsible for your own safety during disaster. So we have to make sure that COVID-19, we leverage on that. What are the challenges that we're having as a country? What were we not doing right? Our health system, our education, our agriculture, everything has been disrupted by by COVID-19. So we have to think of new ways of doing things that suit the African environment.
Great.
Without that, and we always want to rely on what is happening in the world, our problems will linger and we will not address them.
Thank you so much for your time with us on AAU Talk as we spend time with Dr. Peter Asare-Nuamah. He's a lecturer in public policy, climate change, and innovation, and it's been amazing. We want to pick your final remarks on technological innovation and sustainable development in Africa before we keep it wrap up.
Okay, so what I'll say is that for African governments, African private sector, African education systems, we have to come together and think of how do we find a lasting solution to our problems. And that lies within the framework of technology. We have to leverage on existing technologies, because one thing is that Africans are not producers of these technologies, but we can adapt them, use them for our benefit. Now we are using internet. Internet is not something produced by African. It is something that emerged from US through their military intelligence research. But at the end of the day, we can take that internet, blend it with something, and solve a problem in our community.
Okay.
So there are a lot of things that the government of Africa or African government must set up. It is about having commitment. How do we want to see ourselves in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? Sometimes, let me chip in this. I always ask myself, that do we have any government in Ghana that will come and say, when I came, this problem was existing in Ghana. The time I was living, the problem is completely no longer a problem of Ghana. If we take it sector by sector, we take it issue by issue, we will be able to address most of our challenges.
Great.
Yeah, so the government must collaborate with the private sector. The private sector must collaborate with educational institutions, because that is where most of these ideas and knowledge is coming from. We can solve our own problems, but it has to do with that conscious effort among these three parties. If everybody is doing their own thing, government is doing this, educational institutions are doing this, and there will be overlaps. And once they are overlapped, the possibility that we will not address the core challenge is there. So we have to look at how we can partner with all these institutions to make sure we are always centers of knowledge, centers of new ideas for our development.
Splendid. With Dr. Peter Asare-Nuamah, as we discussed, technological innovation and sustainable development. And the point is, whether it goes from bottom up or up to bottom with government, higher education, and private sector, there is a need to sustain the link between these two institutions to ensure that technological innovations live on better and better, and also developments are sustained. Thank you very much, Doc, for your time on AAU Talks. We appreciate your time as well watching us. We'll come your way with more interviews and more productions on topical issues on higher education and policies on higher education. Have a nice day, be safe, and bye.